Wednesday, August 13th. I'm Adam Walsh, and this is The Signal. Today on the show, our wildfire coverage continues. We are talking fire weather, fire behavior, fire investigations. If you have been impacted by wildfires or have some questions, the lines will be open. All right, folks, I got a couple of people here with me in studio. Directly to my left, which you can't see in Radioland, CBC meteorologist Ashley Brauweiler is here. Hi, how are you? Thanks for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
Also, we have Scott Tilley, fire consultant, retired firefighter, fire investigator, fire behavior specialist. Thank you for coming in.
You're welcome, sir. Yeah.
I'm going to go to Ashley for weather, but first, like you live in Conception Bay South.
Yes, sir.
You drove in. I know we're going to talk about multiple fires today, but just the latest on the fire around Paddy's Pond. What were you seeing on your way in, or what do you know about it?
The fire when it came in a short time ago was, it wasn't very smoky. There wasn't any visible flame when I drove out there. It seemed like it was died down overnight. It didn't progress any further. It didn't get any bigger in size. It's still 200 hectares, 250 hectares.
Yeah.
But it looked like they could get ahead of it today, hopefully.
All right, we're going to keep our fingers crossed on that, and we've got a big discussion ahead because we'll be getting into fire behavior and also fire investigations, which you've been part of for years. Ashley, weather, hot, dry, records being broken.
All over the place.
All over the place. Well, how are things looking, first of all, I guess?
Today, another hot one.
Yeah.
Humidity is going to stay pretty low again today, which is not great news, but we are going to start to see some of the humidity tick up a little bit as we head through the day tomorrow, and hopefully some rain.
Hopefully some rain.
Yeah.
Records.
Yeah.
I was watching you on Here and Now for the precip, right? Because let me see, June, July, half what we normally get, and we're at the goose egg 0 for August so far, right?
That's right. So we typically would see about 99.8 millimeters of rain in the month of August. Yeah. The last time we saw any sort of measurable precipitation, significant, 8 millimeters, and that was July 30th.
Right.
So that's a lot of days with no rain.
What records have we been breaking?
So as far as temperature records, 11 records were broken yesterday across the province. In fact, the warmest temperature recorded in the month of August was recorded in Badger yesterday, 36.7 degrees. That broke the old record. It smashed the old record of 32.5, and that was set back in 1988.
A lot of heat this summer. Records broken. If we look into the long range, is there a dip coming? What do we? Because I hate asking about long range in Newfoundland and Labrador because it's like, Adam, what are you talking about? Right?
100%.
But I will.
Well, it's a good question because we've been dealing with this heat dome for, most of this week into late last week. But it does look like we're turning a corner as we head towards the weekend. Temperatures will drop back down to where we should be sitting this time of year, which is good. We'll see a little bit of a rebound by the beginning of next week. And then, again, looks like it'll drop off to even a little bit below where we should be sitting this time of year. So that's good news, obviously, for the fire situation. But we need rain. That's really the key here. And
the potential for a system, tropical system, you're monitoring that too, right?
I am, yeah. So tropical storm, or I believe it's tropical storm. Let me see. Tropical storm Erin at the moment is down in the Atlantic, southern Atlantic, and that is expected to become a major hurricane by the time we get into next week, and then it takes a turn north potentially. Most models are putting it in a turn north. Now, I'm not saying this is something that we need to worry about,
no.
Not yet anyway, but if it does become something that we need to talk about, I will certainly keep an eye on that. And if that is the case, it's week, like at least a week or more away.
Yeah, when it is worth talking about, you will be talking about it.
That's right.
Until then, it's not worth talking about, except for saying, hey, I'm paying attention to this thing.
Exactly. It's there. We're thinking about it.
Okay.
And I'll keep an eye on it.
Anything else weather-wise to talk about? And it feels like you would hang out all you want, by the way, for this discussion today, but just checking to see if there's anything else to kind of get at.
Yeah, let's talk about what a heat dome is, because I know we use that a lot that term a lot within the weather, and it's certainly becoming more of a story because summers are getting hotter and hotter and hotter, and we're seeing significant heat domes over places. So basically, what a heat dome is a strong area of high pressure that just kind of sits over an area and it doesn't move. Yep. And in high pressure situations, high pressure, we get sinking air, and so that sinking air kind of compresses, it heats up, and when that heat dome is sitting over us for extended periods of time, the temperatures continue to warm up right along with it. And so we're seeing that. And the temperatures, you can pretty much pretend that a high pressure system is like a lid, and it's keeping that heat over us. So until it moves off, you continue to see those warm temperatures.
Yeah, and so that's like a fire weather discussion. It's also, we had the mayor of Gander on yesterday talking about spots for folks to go for cooling, right?
Yes.
A community infrastructure. I know the conversation in parts of Labrador today, too. It's about being able to go to places, community infrastructure for cooling. Also on the show yesterday, I mentioned things like make sure your car is gassed up if you got to get into it, to turn on the AC. This is, and folks, like for Ashley talking about this heat dome, if you remember in the news, 2021, British Columbia was the kind of the first time that we were like, what is this? And tragically, you're talking upwards, or well, more than really, 600 deaths were associated with that.
That's
and
right.
That's from heart failure, kidney failure, those types of things when we talk about this type of heat. At that extreme, and that was even hotter.
But I think the hottest temperature recorded in Canada was 49.5 or something like that in Lytton, BC. So
it's it's the conversation of paying attention to things, talking about it, finding out what the best things to do are for the heat, checking on your neighbors, checking on your loved ones, and trying to get through this together.
Yeah, limit your time outdoors, especially even with the air quality index, right, being so bad. That doesn't help the situation either. Keep yourself cool. Yeah, find those places. Go to the mall. Keep hydrated.
Stay hydrated.
Stay hydrated. That is very important.
Especially if you're working outside and you have to be working outside.
Yeah, and just don't sit in the sun.
Yeah.
Shade. Shade is your friend.
Thank you for that.
No
I appreciate the explanation. Mm-hmm. Scott Tilley, we talk about fuel for a fire. You and Ashley, before the show, you were telling us about fuel. Can you just talk about, when it comes to things being the way they are right now with this heat, extended dryness period, what type of fuel are wildfires are they eating up?
Well, the heat dome is certainly lowering the ignition temperature of a lot of ground surface material that's laid around. In the forest that's around now, you got the trees. It consists of 3 different types of fuel. Your ground fuel, the soil and peat. And you got the surface fuel, the leaves, branches, old logs left on the ground. Then you got the aerial fuel of a tree, the snags and the old branches that are going up. And those coniferous trees, with all the pines and stuff around, there's so much surface to air ratio of that once those fires get going, it's, the ignition temperature is low. It doesn't take very much to get going, but when they get going, it's hard to stop. You'd have to apply a lot of water to absorb the heat that's being released from those,
Vince McKenzie, Fire Chief McKenzie, was on the show yesterday, and he used the word explosive around the how dry things are with the fuel that is there, and if something starts,
right,
it just goes.
You get like the candling effect of a tree, that'd be like look like a candle, but it's the fuel of the tree from the bottom up, or clumps of trees that just explode and make it look like a candle. It just runs up the tree so fast,
Yeah, so then I think folks will know, will when they think about some of the videos they've seen of wildfires, and when we talk about candling like that, and you see that fire engulfing the tree and kind of flickering at the top, and it can go pretty high above trees too once a fire gets going. How high can fire go when it comes to candling, and once that beast starts going?
Depending on the fuel package, the load and how big the trees are, or the clump of trees. I've seen them this week, 300 feet in the Paddy's Pond, flames that are, scary high,
300 feet. What's the difference in, for burning trees? What is the, because, I'll go with my experience in life, right? When you think of growing up, having in the fall when times are wet, having a campfire, and you put boughs on the fire, and how they can just, even if they're green, how they can just still go up. How does that work with trees?
Well, every material has an ignition temperature. It doesn't, wood doesn't burn, paper doesn't burn. It has to absorb enough heat to change the physical state of gas, and it's the gas that comes off everything that burns, and it has to be perfect fuel vapor to air mixture. It's called stoichiometric fire, and it's perfect fuel vapor to air, and it just runs off. The fire's instantaneous, and it's pretty clean burning, and it's very fast. It's hard to keep up with that kind of a fire.
How fast can wildfires move?
Oh, I don't know about this one, but I know the one I was watching in Los Angeles is moving a football field every 2 seconds.
Right.
So that, it can be pretty fast. It generates its own weather, a big fire can. It has thermal draft and lift and can take pockets of embers kilometers away, I was in charge of the Kenmount Terrace fire a number of years ago, and I can remember looked like birds' nests coming out of the sky and falling, on people's flower boxes and patios and stuff. It's just so much stuff can come out of the woods. There's so much material in there to burn.
Yeah, so talk a bit more about that then, because when you get this wildfire going, you mentioned the LA wildfires. You talked about they can be their own weather systems, right? We've got Ashley Brauweiler here too, nodding along, like, yes, that is correct. The wind they create as they eat things up, like what's that effect like, and what can it feel like around a wildfire as one is moving? Because it sucks stuff in too, right?
It does, and it's creating heat, convection heat and radiation heat. You can't be close to it, Now you got to try to apply enough of water to absorb the BTUs of heat that's being released from this, fuel package burning,
You're so a bunch of folks are listening to the show today, including your daughter, and she texted the show wondering how many hours of sleep you got last night. Did you sleep much or what?
Let's say we did not.
Yeah, because her guess was 3. So, because you've been monitoring this, because I've been watching on social media. It's been very helpful for explaining what is happening, and for folks to understand just how much are you monitoring things.
I've been helping my friend who owns Akita equipment, Chris and Amy, in Paddy's Pond, and we've been trying to get all the gear out, and their equipment, such a large company, and they got people to employ. You can't leave all your gear over there. Wishing that it's not going to burn. So we have permission to go in and move a lot of their equipment, and looks like we're successful in moving everything out, and I think their operation's up and running today in Donovan's and in some warehouse in Donovan's. So I'm going to stop in on my way in.
Oh, good. Because a bunch of folks answered the call for that, right? To move those.
Oh my God, hundreds of people.
Yeah. The other bit too, obviously concern for your friends and a business and the well-being there. But when it comes to a wildfire situation, whether it's heavy equipment, whether it's a truck, whether it's a car, but anything with gas and oil inside of it, that also can cause severe problems too. I remember reading about the Fort Mac fire. I mean, they're like little bombs in a community, right?
That's right, sir. Yeah.
So then, when you're a firefighter, what do you think about when you're entering it? Like for the Kenmount Terrace fire, as you're entering that space, knowing you've got these vehicles, knowing it's vinyl siding, knowing how fast things can go up, what's the thought process for approaching a fire?
Well, you got to watch the wind for sure. Find out where do you think the fire is going to head. You got to, evacuate the people that's around there. You got to find out what kind of water supply you got in there. You can't go hooking up, 5 pumper trucks on a 6-inch water main and collapse your water, and you have no water at all. You got to be cognizant of a lot of things out there.
Yeah.
Turn off the power to the area, and contact forestry and tell them you got a bit of a problem. You're going to need some help.
Yeah, because the bit here, and this is which we've talked about on the show before, the WUI, the wildland urban interface, where the houses meet the trees in the forest. And in Canada, in Newfoundland and Labrador, a bunch of people are living in this zone. What's the difference between a firefighter like yourself, right, a community municipal firefighter, compared to the folks in the woods with forestry and like for the firefighting attack?
Yeah, they're after, we usually, the city fire department say, any of those fires that are first reported are attacked or addressed by the city fire department here, the regional fire department, and then they'd call in forestry after they, have it under control, or there's a lot of hot spots that have to be, taken into consideration. You're up in Holyrood now, the fire department up there, those people are working every day, night. trying to get all those a lot of peat bog in the ground, trying to dig it up and wet it there. Had it, 8 or 9 days now,
Yeah, because like when peat's wet, fine. And typically peat around here, it's wet. But also peat in Europe has been used for generations and generations, hundreds of years, to burn when it's dry. So you have these dry conditions, and all of a sudden, like you said earlier, it's an ignition source. It's fuel or not ignition source, it's fuel for the fire.
Yes, correct.
A couple other little definition things. We hear about fire breaks and fuel breaks. Like, what are those? And how do they work? And why are they important?
Well, you could line up a spot in your, the progression of the fire and plan ahead where you think the fire is going to be in a specific time, and you get in heavy equipment, plow down all the combustible material that's ahead of you. Try to make everything that's not going to burn, wet everything down. Use your foam and foam everything that you can around it. And trying to make a stand from when that fire gets to where you are.
And how important is it to know about fire behavior for deciding where a fire break goes, how big it is, and where to make that stand?
That's right. You need to know quite a bit about fire behavior and the mechanics of fire. What kind of fuel it is, how much it is. Like a deciduous tree or, like a birch tree is different than a coniferous tree. There's so much surface in the needle, so the surface to air ratio, there's way more fuel able to be consumed on a coniferous pine tree than it is on a deciduous tree. You know what I mean? Just consider a pile of wood chips and a log. Put a lighter under both of them. The more surface to air ratio on the pile of right, than it is a log. You're not going to the log going, but this will go. So the finer your fuel is, the more air is around it, and it's easy to get going.
Yeah. So then, for a fire break, what is it like? It's heavy machinery bulldoze. Like, are you bulldozing trees out of there? What are you doing to make it?
They started that into Fowler's Road yesterday, and I think the fire changed a bit now. I'm not speaking about in any official capacity. Just speaking to some of the contractors out there, and they moved out a little bit, because the fire had changed. The fingers of the fire, or just say the left flank of the fire, you came down around Paddy's Pond, Yeah,
because it can be unpredictable when it comes to a wildfire. And even when people who understand fire behavior, it can still be unpredictable. So what is the risk if people take this into their own hands and build, without consulting forestry and folks who know, if they're like, no, we're going to go build a fire break, what's the risk for them if they do that?
Well, the government will not let you be doing anything like that.
I know, but people have been talking about it, so I'm just wondering how that's a risk to person. Folks could be seriously in trouble.
And if you're piling up stuff and you don't know which way the fire is going, you don't know, the wind over the next couple of days. You can't just do that all of a sudden. Then you got a big pile of combustible somewhere, and maybe the fire will go right into it.
So your intention could be one thing, but yet you could be causing.
Yeah, you want to leave that to the planners who are looking after the fires.
Is there a difference with a water break? I know I'm using the word water, but what is the difference?
Yeah, you wet everything down, foam everything down, trying to slow the forward advancement of the fire.
You're listening to The Signal. I'm Adam Walsh. Today we're having a talk. We started with fire weather with Ashley Brauweiler, CBC meteorologist, and we've got Scott Tilley here, fire consultant, investigator, fire behavior specialist. So we're marching through the weather we get. We're talking about how fires start, behavior, and we'll talk about investigations too. And for folks, if you're being impacted, if you've been impacted by wildfires, if you have thoughts for us or a couple questions, 709-722-7111, 1-800-563-8255. You can text us, 709-327-8206, thesignal@cbc.ca. How many investigations did you got under your belt?
Close to 3,000 since I've been doing them, yeah.
3,000. What goes into an investigation for a fire?
The lion's share of my investigations were for the police or insurance companies, structural fire investigation. But I did do quite a few forest fire, just looking out to see if we can find what would be the competent ignition source of that,
Yeah. So then for the wildfire investigations you've done, what has been some of give folks an idea of the range of ignition sources for wildfires?
this time of the year now, glass or bottles or stuff like that on the ground, as the sun is passing over them, it gets to a point somewhere where the ground is so dry and the ignition temperature of the fuel is lowered so much that it doesn't take much of a magnifying of your light from the sun to ignite the grass beneath it, along power lines, a piece of insulators. If an insulator cracks off a pole, that could be on the ground, and light could go through. The sun could go through that and magnify. I'm sure all those fires that are, on the North Shore, in a 3-month period, like there's 11 or 12. I'd highly suggest that all of those are not accidental fires.
Yeah. So
I don't know that, but
So when we talk, exactly, you as a fire investigator, when we talk about the Kingston fire, you would have questions over the because it's time of day frequency in the range of a few months from May up until just a little while ago. And we know, we've talked to folks in this community, in the surrounding area. Folks are on edge there, and they're wondering. So this is just you kind of looking at and putting a big question mark over things. Yeah,
I would. Yeah, I'd map that whole place out and put on a vector diagram everywhere those fires have started.
Yeah.
Then I would go and I would retrieve videotape from people's cell phones all over the place. Put out a public announcement, because if someone is lighting those fires, if it's the same person lighting those fires, they usually stay around. Textbook would suggest that those people like to watch the firemen in action. They'd be on video somewhere.
We got an email here from David Moores, who frequently emails and calls the show. So as always, thanks for that and listening, David. He says, the guest is exceptional, wonderful info. So compliments to you, sir. Would you ask, what is it like to work around and under tankers and helicopters overhead, benefits and risks? So when we think about the water bombers, tankers, and we I know we got a couple of Blackhawks coming in. When you have these types of aerial machinery doing their job, and you're working the fire, what is that like, and what do they take into account?
It's ground communicated from the ground to the helicopter, and now they have there's a spotter helicopter just addressing the water bombers of where they need to apply their drops to. But you have to be cognizant of there's a lot of weight. There's 1,600 gallons. Some of those tankers that are coming in now are bigger than that. It's quite a drop of water to come down. I've been in the woods where water is coming down, not hit you now, but spraying in your face, and it's like rain. You can hurt yourself. You can get hurt.
Yeah, this is heavy stuff coming from the sky. The point to make an impact on a fire, and if you're in the wrong spot, obviously. But this is why communication is essential.
Key, yes. Right.
When it comes to water bombers, what kind of an impact? What's the impact for water bombers, and when can they not have as big of an impact? Because you see them dumping load after load after load. If it's a raging fire, what does it do to the fire, or does it have to just be ahead of it to wet the ground as it approaches?
I've seen them this week up there in Paddy's Pond. The fire was so intense on days, like a couple of days ago, that the water wasn't hardly reaching the ground. It was dissipating and evaporating before it got down, because the fire was generating so much. The BTUs, the heat, you couldn't apply enough water to absorb the heat that's being generated, So it wasn't having much of effect for a while. Then as you have 2 or 3 more water bombers, they're dropping right after the other in the same spot. So you're applying more water product, and you're having an effect then,
Almost sounds like sometimes if I'm getting a frying pan ready, I'm flicking water on it, it just goes tss, as opposed to with more water, that can actually make a difference.
But the closer they're getting now to it, the better, more success as the water is reaching the ground,
Right. Mm-hmm. Compare contrast. When we were getting ready for the show, I talked about a small wildfire in the mid-'90s at the top of Fowler's Road.
Right.
I was a paper boy at the time. I remember it. Went and looked at it. Watched the water bomber come in and it was out pretty quickly. This was probably 94, 95. You know about this fire.
I investigated that fire.
Okay, first of all, I never did find out. So, I mean, all these years later, what was the cause of it?
It was from an insulator that had broken from the pole and hit the side of the pole and dropped sparks down onto the ground. Yep.
So that caused it. It was put out pretty quickly. What's the difference with then and now? Because this is also right now an area on alert,
Yeah.
right? Because of the Paddy's Pond fire. What's the difference in that forest and with what's going on?
Back then, there was no evacuations. Everybody's watching it from their window as the water bomber came down behind
I was one of them.
store on the top of Fowler's Road.
I shouldn't have been at it, but anyways, yeah.
And now, back then, there wasn't. That's a young growth of trees back then, what you're talking about. Now in that area, there's so much foliage on the ground now. It's a way different fuel package up there now than it was in '95 when you seen it. Because I grew up down there. I lived on Chanterelle, just off Fowler's Road. So I know what it was like there. But now it's all grown up. It would be a different fire now.
Yeah,
a more intense, bigger fire right now compared to '95. And I'm sure they would evacuate everybody right now.
Yeah, so it's a more mature growth, more fuel that's built up over the years, which it will have. And then also, there's the dryness and heat factor that we have with this heat dome that Ashley Brauweiler was talking about that in 1995 was not happening.
True.
Yeah. So all of that's like these are the factors that we're considering.
Yes.
A lot of people are on edge right now with these fires starting. And we talked about the Kingston fire. Bay Despair Highway update was closure, talking about wildfire in the center of the island. There's also monitoring what's happening in Labrador. What would you say to folks about the start of these of fires? Because you mentioned broken glass is common. Like what other and this Fowler's Road one, which is something completely different again from back in '95 or '94 or whatever it was. What are some of the other things that you notice for like that can start wildfires? For why we have to be so vigilant?
People are smoking. ATVs can start fires, going through the dry grass. People are careless with campfires and stuff, It's pretty dangerous right now to be doing it. Yeah.
So it's like, and which leads to why we heard the announcement earlier today for this province banning ATV use across the province until Sunday. It is just extra steps to keep people, to reduce, I guess, the possibilities of an ignition from something.
Right, because resources are taxed now. We're to the limit. Any more fires is certainly going to draw, equipment that's around here and over in the North Shore, and in Central. If you got to move it to Labrador, if you got to move it to the West Coast or Northern Peninsula, we can't take many more fires right now. I wouldn't suggest.
How has stuff changed over the years from back when you started with seeing wildfires back then and what you're seeing now? Like what is your thought process on this summer compared to previous years and your experience?
Everybody's frightened to death. I'm even frightened in the morning when I get up and say, oh my God, I hope there's no fires today because it's such a hot day. You're never going to get ahead of it. And then your local fire department got to go down and deal with that initially. And those fellas and girls are getting beat up down the woods, They're taxed to death from the heat. The heat is just beating them up,
Yeah, it's just a lot.
Work is hard work down the wood, fighting fires.
Yeah, Chief McKenzie told me yesterday, because this is a campaign, like the difference. Can you talk about what would go into, because if you're a community firefighter, used to protecting people and structures, and then this different bit of 1 day, 2 days, turning into sometimes weeks. What's that process for firefighters like?
Well, they're not getting no sleep, and you got to change your equipment now. You can't be down in the woods with structural firefighting gear. You got to have the right PPE. You got to have the right equipment. It's different now. They're there for a long time, and they're not hydrating. The heat stroke is a issue. It's pretty hard on people, on the fire people now in the woods this time of year in the heat or anywhere, whatever you're fighting for. If you're fighting a structure fire today, you're all done when it's over. You're worn out.
What are those conversations like then afterwards with firefighters? Like because there's obviously there's a warm line nowadays for first responders, but when you go through something like this, what's the conversation like?
Well, were talking amongst each other, and how we could have done this, or could we have done this better, or could we have done it any different for the outcome to be different. They don't like to see it, progress any further. No one likes to see a house burn down. Could we do it any different? And then you got the farm and black humor when you get back to the station. Those.
Oh, it's the same.
How that goes.
Yeah, I think with journalism.
I don't mean, you know what I mean? Dark humor.
Yeah. Well, exactly, because it's a. It's the same with journalism. I think I've got first responder friends. You get. There's a certain type of humor sometimes because of the impact of the job that you have.
Firemen don't care about your feelings.
No. Why did you become a fireman?
My grandfather was a fireman here in the city in the 50s, and I liked it. I was a fireman in Conception Bay South for 6 years, and here in the city for 29 years. Mm-hmm. And I've been doing fire consulting ever since that. So I'm still doing that. But I just liked it. You're out and helping people. Yeah. Yeah. I
mean, I know we're talking about wildfires today, but what stands out to you in your career? Like, what are the things you remember from that stick with you from your career?
I missed being with the boys in the station, having a laugh and cooking and stuff. But I don't know, just you miss it sometimes.
Yeah, I think from firefighters, I think it's similar with folks who are in the military. There's something about the camaraderie, even though the work is dangerous and hard, but it is that kind of you think back to. And especially when you look at folks from the volunteer fire departments and other fire departments across this province right now, for folks who are out there doing the work as hard as it is, that camaraderie is the part that is helping to keep folks together, right?
100%. Yeah.
You're listening to The Signal. I'm Adam Walsh. Today on the show, we started with CBC meteorologist Ashley Brauweiler giving us an update, just explaining about the heat dome that is here, what it means, talking a bit about fire weather, giving us a look at, the fingers crossed, hopefully some cooler weather coming, the potential for rain, all of that. My other guest for the full hour is Scott Tilley, longtime firefighter, fire consultant, investigator, and fire behavior specialist. When you decide to go into being a consultant, and I'll just say, folks, if you've got questions for us for the show today, if there's any, or comments, if you've got some questions for Scott Tilley, 709-722-7111, 1-800-563-8255. You can text us, 709-327-8206, thesignal@cbc.ca for emails. I just got a note here, someone mentioning about their mom down in Ferryland, saying some folks have been asked to remove glass vases and that kind of thing from a cemetery to prevent fires. I didn't even think about that.
I've investigated fires where stained glass little birds are hanging in your kitchen window that have burned your coffee table, or a big burn on your couch when you came home. There was like, how did this get here? And it's from glass hanging on your windows, coming through the sun beating through them, and creating a magnifying glass in your house. I've seen a half a dozen of those.
How do you figure that out when you go to the scene?
Well, you got to eliminate. You got to find a competent ignition source. And there's not, is it electrical? Is it arson? Is it smoking? Is it mechanical? Is it lightning? You know what I mean? Yeah. You got to try to eliminate things that is not. You don't go out to do an arson investigation. You go out to do a fire investigation, eliminate things that is not.
Yeah.
And what you're left with, then you try to conclude a hypothesis of how can this be? And yeah.
So for a wildfire, what can arson look like? What are the tells for arson for a wildfire?
Well, you could just be lighting stuff and throwing it out your window. Yeah. That's mostly what someone is doing,
Yeah.
I don't want to say some of the things that you found, because it'll probably give people ideas.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah. Be careful on those details.
When I'm doing teaching, I got a box of stuff home that I've collected from fires, from different fires, exhibits of causes. So I don't want to say some of the fires from
folks will use things,
stuff, but I have some of them.
Folks will use things, and we won't get into what. But what does it, like for that ignition part where it starts, how do you, are you tracking down exactly where it started? Or is it you're looking for evidence that will show that there was a person involved, or to show that it's broken glass or accidental with cigarette butt or something like that?
Well, you're trying to determine the area of fire origin, and you're trying to find the point of fire origin. then you're trying to eliminate causes that is not. What can be here? There's not very many competent ignition sources out on the pole line of Paddy's Pond. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
An insulator coming off the hydro pole, which is not it never happened.
Yeah.
So what's left? It has to be glass. There's nothing else can be in there. There's nothing in there, boys. To start, a competent ignition source. You got the fuel and the oxygen around you, but you need to have something to get it going. And unless there's a match or a glass or someone's in there. And I believe someone was seen in that area where the fire was.
So yesterday with the announcement, Constable James Cadigan mentioned that they're looking to talk to someone, and they wouldn't go in, that's out. We've got it on cbc.ca/NL. It also made the media rounds because it was just someone that they're interested in talking to just to see, because this is part of what you're talking about. It's like eliminating parts to figure out what it may have been to start it.
Just trying to eliminate her as having anything to do with the fire, to see what she's seen. She might have seen something,
Yeah.
And that's what they're doing. She's not necessarily the person.
Exactly.
They're trying to speak to her to eliminate other persons of interest or other causes,
Yeah, because this goes to what you said earlier too. Like if you were investigating, because you mentioned one of the other fires, like with the Kingston area, you'd be asking for video from folks and eyewitness accounts. It is all, so anyone who may have seen something, been around, was in the location near it, you're talking to all of those people to start to piece together what it is and to see, like, okay, was it someone having a campfire? Was it a cigarette butt? Was it a piece of glass? It depends on time of day or night, all that stuff.
Make a timeline and start putting everything on your line then, and make drawings, map out all those fires. The times of day, the weather conditions, the wind directions, and speak to people, in that close area of that fire. Someone's seen something.
Yeah.
Some of those fires are in different communities. Someone has seen something if those fires are anything but accidental,
Yeah, exactly. And which is where the conversation is.
And the police are actively investigating that now down the North Shore. The RCMP have a file open and they're working through it.
Yeah, well, exactly right. So it is. We've heard updates. We've heard the province talk about it. On a day like today, let me check the weather here now to see how hot it is here in St. John's. But like on a day like today, with how dry it is, with the humidity where it is, if you did get that piece of glass, or if you did get that cigarette butt, can you just walk me through the speed at which something can happen right now, given the weather that we have?
Well, the speed, once those fires get going, depending on whatever fuel package is into, if it's grass or peat bog or, light foliage, that wind can move that along pretty quick, and it won't be long generating enough of smoke that you can see it and have to report it. Those fires can get out of hand pretty quickly.
So then when it comes to the response to it, how important, and I know it's really important, but like for the speed for response, like how long do you have before something goes from something that's manageable to put out to something going to out of control? Well, I know it depends on variables. Both.
Yeah, it's hard to determine that. You have to know what was burning. If it was a gasoline fire, they would get away way quicker than, logs burning. It's a lot of variables. It's hard to say.
Yeah,
response times are 5 minutes or around 5 minutes are good. You can get a handle on it most times, but. It depends on what's burning,
Yeah, it depends exactly. Because if it's
confined, if it's out in the open air,
if it's a field compared to a bunch of spruce, right?
Right.
All of that depends. So the speed will be different, but I mean the point is to get to it as soon as the quicker the better. Because when a fire is considered out of control, what does that mean? How does that decision get made, or like when you're looking at it?
Well, the amount of resources that you can put at it right now is not enough to overcome what's happening in front of you.
Yeah.
So this is out of control, and then you got to look for more resources, and go back and make another plan.
We got a text from the text line here about. Do you know if are there any chemicals used to fight forest fires in this province? How does that work?
Yeah, they got some firefighting foams and stuff that they're using. I don't know what they're using around Paddy's Pan, or if they are using it, but there's suppliers around that can give you different kinds of foam for different applications. For whatever you're fighting.
What are some things that you've learned then? Because you mentioned you're watching because I mean a lot of people were watching the LA wildfires. As you watch different fires in different parts of North America or perhaps somewhere else in the world, what's that learning been like for you over the years of just seeing how things have evolved to where we are today?
In those bigger centers, they have a lot of resources. You can pound a lot of resources at it right away. We're stretched here where we're to now. I don't think we can handle any more fires. I don't mean the air operations of it, but the firemen here would be overwhelmed. I know the city folks and the CBS folks and the Holyrood folks and the North Shore folks they're out all night, day and night, boys. They're out
stretched.
Yeah, they're at they're there where they're to. They're at the limit.
So what do you think this means for? This is going to end, right? Like rain will come. Right. The temperatures will change. This will end. What do you think we need to think about for the future for firefighting and response in the province?
I think you need to invest in, some more protection equipment. It's just my personal opinion, being a fireman.
Yeah.
You'd want more PPE, more gear in your town, you know what I mean? The fire departments need to, better equip and then use some of your resources that you can get around. I know a friend of mine called me yesterday about a new cement pump truck they had that can pump cement 110 feet, 40 feet. You hooked it up to water, you can pump some water long distance.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then another gentleman phoned me, said he had 10 or 12 cement trucks full of water with 8 or 10,000 liters of water into it. They could supply the firemen, if they needed it. But,
there's working together. There's thinking outside the box. There's ways for us to be together on this and to respond.
Right.
And I've got a note here from the provincial government. The Bay Despair Highway, Route 360, from the Sunday Pond Resource Road to the Cap Brook turnaround area is now closed. And folks, if you are, with that highway situation, Canagra Peninsula, folks in Meow-Pukek, do feel free to let us know if there's something you want us to know or the rest of the province to know. The signal at cbc.ca. Lines are still open for the rest of the show, 709-722-7111, 1-800-563-8255. You can text us, 709-327-8206. Mr. Dick Whitaker is on the line. Hi, sir.
How are you today?
Getting through it. Bye. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm hanging in there. As you probably know, I live in Portugal Cove, and I keep an eye on the Paddy's Pond situation. It's obviously a worry because there's a belt of woods right along the coastline to Portugal Cove. If it gets down to that, we've got a problem. And, not just to Portugal Cove, right out to Cape St. Francis, So that's an obvious thing. If it gets into that, it'll be a bit, it's going to have a lot more problems. But anyway, that's not entirely in our hands, is it? The wind is as much a problem as anything.
Wind, yeah, and Scott, like for a fire, I mean, so there's wind, and also the humidity is a big issue with it too. Low humidity is a big deal, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And, it's prompted me to go around and on cleaning up the dead leaves and stuff from around our garage, whether it be any help or not if anything happens. But that's what the least I can do, eh?
Yeah.
That sort of thing. But everything is crispy dry. It doesn't matter what it is. I mean, even the ferns around the house, which I've never seen anything but, very lush. They're crisping up.
Yeah, Mr. Whitaker, and that's same. Like I've heard folks use the words crispy, crunchy, you name it, and it's just it's not something we've been used to here for the way it's supposed to feel when you're walking around outside.
No, I have two questions. One of them is how quickly can fires be spotted, using the satellite information and so on presently, or is that sort of dependent on the whole raft of things up in space?
All right, yeah. Just Scott, there's what is the monitoring like? Is there satellite monitoring or is it radar? Like, what types of monitoring do we have, or aerial? What's the monitoring like for?
I think I've seen some of the satellite stuff, but small fires, in their incipient stage or the beginning stage of fires, I don't think you could track them from satellite. Now, I don't know that for a fact, but I would think.
Yeah, because when you can see a beaver dam on a satellite picture if you go through looking through it, but I don't know the live stuff is a different story, I guess. But that's one of our tools nowadays that we need to maximize if we can.
Yeah, and I think there's also a conversation that you can have, like when we talk about monitoring. I mean, you're asking about satellites, 100%, good question. And then also like whether it's in a day of drones and monitoring, it's wondering how to use technology. Could drone use help out? But at the same time, when you've got water bombers and Blackhawks and bird dogs in the air, they also get in the way of stuff too. But so it's just, an important conversation, totally.
Yeah, and a practical question. Where can you buy coveralls that are fire resistant? Because, a lot of coveralls are made of basically plastic material, and they melt on people. They're no good.
A lot of the fire supply contracting places like Martin's or Kennedy Pratt or some of those supply companies around here, they would certainly have those fire retardant coveralls.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I should go to Mark's work warehouse and say, okay, what's your stuff made of? Look at that, because so the fire resistant ones are like cotton or something like that, as opposed to the plastic base. They don't melt on you, in other words.
Yeah, stay away from polyester.
And organic cotton.
Yeah, organic cotton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, something like. Anyway, but those are practical issues. I mean, I know as well that your best chance to deal with a fire, if you can get at it within a half an hour, you probably have a half chance. But in the current circumstances, even that is almost too short a time, is it not?
Yes, sir. That's quite a long time. A half an hour head start on any suppression operation is going to be well advanced by the time you get there.
Yeah, especially if there's any breeze at all. I went through Gander, many years ago when the fire jumped the Gander Lake. I mean, it was almost unbelievable. You're talking about well over a kilometer.
Yeah, not a small lake.
From one side of the lake to the other.
Yeah, when you get a forest fire in those thick, heavy woods, the embers that rain down can be kilometers and kilometers away, and start spot fires and candling in other places. Way ahead of the head or crown of the fire.
Yeah, we're going to have to think about whether we want to replant some of these woods with a much higher level of hardwoods like maples and stuff like that to reduce this problem, because it's not going to go away.
Yeah, and I think there's a great conversation when we've talked about Fire Smart on the show, and I think 100% there's a great conversation when we talk about our properties, and also if folks want to think about what to plant. And how to plant and where to plant and how to be fire smart, and there's the resources online for that too, folks. So do Google fire smart to check that out, because that is also part of the conversation of where we are right now in this summer that we're living through.
And it's a personal responsibility as opposed to a government responsibility and whatever. People can do things. They should. They don't need to denude the landscape entirely, but. Some things, and I'm changing up. I've cut a whole bunch of fir trees around from my house in the last month. And I'm going to have to do more, no matter what. Yeah. So anyway, I'll get off the phone. I'm sure there's other people.
I appreciate the call. Be well, sir.
Bye-bye, and you.
Thank you. And I will say earlier I mentioned Bay d'Espoir Highway is now closed, has been closed, period. Couple of words there. Point being, it's closed as an update for the roads there. Get a text in. In Australia, many jurisdictions undertake regular controlled burns near built-up areas after the summer season to eliminate fuel near infrastructure for later seasons that are fire-prone. Is this something that Newfoundland and Labrador might consider to avoid? Now, I mean, you're not speaking on behalf of that, but like the point is, has it been done, or have you heard conversations around managing this fuel build-up issue, and to think about like what the Aussies are doing or other jurisdictions?
They've done it here. Yeah. They do it here in the province, but I couldn't speak to that. That would be fisheries, forestry, and agriculture would certainly be able to tell you, how much they're doing it, where they're doing it, and when they're doing it.
Yeah. But it has been done in the past.
It has, sir. Yeah.
Yeah. We're we only got a couple minutes left here. What will you be doing in the following days for tracking things and paying attention to stuff?
No, I'm just looking around myself and just making my own notes and mental notes. I think they're going to hopefully get ahead of that fire today in Paddy's Pond. And put the rest of the resources back out on the North Shore, bad fires, we've never seen fires like this, of this magnitude, coming to your community or close to your community, Pretty devastating for everybody.
Yeah, and I don't mean, not that you can ever get used to it, but this has been quite the summer for folks who've never. I'm talking right now island specific, because Labrador has been through things before with evacuations and stuff. But like with these fires and the feeling, and everyone being, everyone I talk to, kind of on edge these days, right?
Everybody's on edge, and as the years go by, is liable to get. A lot of being the norm,
Yeah, I mean, the likelihood of extreme weather, and like I've talked about through climate change, when it's dry and hot, it's too hot, too dry, no rain, and then when it's wet, it's too wet. And these are some of the ranges that for the extreme weather, which we're getting for climate change. What's the safety message to leave folks with today on the show from someone who's got 3,000 investigations under their belt for fires, a wildfire behavior specialist, and someone who's a consultant on this?
Be cognizant of fires around your house or in your house. Keep an eye to things around, clean up your house. Look up the fire smart stuff now and clean up your property. Rake your leaves away from your house. Trim any old dead trees, which I have to do around my own house right now, But you got to be cognizant of fire all the time and get out of hand pretty quick. And it's pretty easy to get going this time of the year.
Yeah, and I guess when it comes to announcements about being on alert to have your go bag ready, that type of thing, follow what the messages are so that you can move when you have to, if you have to, and hopefully you don't. But this is just, we're trying to look at the reality of where we are.
Because if those fires can come up on you pretty quick, and a lot of people in the United States, in the Los Angeles area, you get trapped by the fires.
Yeah.
Too late when they tell you that you should move. Don't wait around and think, well, it's not bad here, it's not here yet. Heed the warnings of the officials that are managing these disasters, and move out when you can.
Yeah, exactly.
Quick as you can.
Follow those directions.
Follow the directions, yeah.
Because the fire may be somewhere, but the ember may be next to you where you are, and you might have to move right away.
And it could land behind you and start a fire behind you, and you have a fire in front of you and behind you.
That happened. A guest I interviewed from Nova Scotia from 2 years ago. That happened. Fire was across the lake or pond or whatever, and then looked in her backyard. Backyard was on fire. Had to go.
Right.
So that's a lesson.
Yeah. Don't wait around.
Got a note from your son here who's been listening, and he said, proud of you for stepping out of your comfort zone and informing people today. And also, he finally broke 100 in golf.
Oh, did he? Really good.
There you go.
Good for you, fella.
Scott Tilley, thanks for this today, for sitting in here, talking with me, answering questions. It's important stuff to talk about. I appreciate your expertise.
Thank you, sir.
All right, folks. That is it for the show. If you have thoughts for us, the signal at cbc.ca. Call the signal line and leave us a message, 709-576-5260. We have a couple messages to check, which I will get to right after the show today, folks, if you have called in. We will be back tomorrow with another show on with other angles of wildfire coverage for Newfoundland and Labrador. Until then, thank you for listening. Cheers.